previously.
I will also make this into a series if I can get maybe 10 likes.
Okay, so let's check how many likes there are. So it got 8 likes. Since I got no comments, I turned to my friends for help. As it turns out, friends are a good resource sometimes, because I had completely forgotten about Pacman when trying to find a game to make. So let's get right into the game. I started by making a screen that felt to be about the right size and aspect ratio for Pacman. Then, I defined variables for player position and movement direction. I also set a low frame rate to give it an old arcade feel. I made the background black for now and decided to scale everything a bunch to show pixelation and once again make it resemble the real game. Then, I opened my 10-year-old version of Photoshop and decided to make a map for the game. I tried to somewhat match what the original looked like, and I did okay. Next, I loaded the image in and used it as a background. I did a bunch of math for some reason, probably to figure out what scale to use. Next, I made the actual yellow guy. I haven't done much animation in my videos, so I decided this was a good time to add some. I made 4 images with varying levels of mouth sobs. Next was adding them to the program, and making a variable to control which image to display. It was a bit out of scale, which means I didn't do the math right. But since 8 likes equals 10, then I guess that was to be expected. Next, I played around with using some fancy functions to move the player, and they relied on using pixel information from the map image. I'm going to speed through this part because I tried absolutely everything and it would not work. Really, I was probably just being dumb, and I gave up on that idea. No wait, I just tried some more fancy logic in hopes that it would work, but it didn't. So I'm going to spare you the painful amount of time I spent on that and just cut to the good part. Okay, so here we are in Notepad, typing up a map. Now this may sound unconventional, but it is my go-to solution for storing large arrays of data. Don't question it. When the map enters the code, it gets divided into an array of characters. This allows for checking if moving in a certain direction will push you into a wall. I fixed the array sizes, adjusted some variables, and got it to work. The next step was to show the array as a map, so I made every 1 a white square on the screen, and every 0 a black square. Once I got that working, I played around with the file until I had something resembling the Pacman playing area. After that, I ran the game a couple of times and was very confused when Pacman would go off to the right side of the screen and throw an exception. So I spent some time catching exception statements and doing a lot of unnecessary stuff because I scrapped the direction variable and replaced it with 4 variables for up, down, left, and right. I also put a constraint on the position variable so the player wouldn't go off screen. It took a couple of tries to get right, but it ended up working very well. The next task was to make movement possible. Up until now, all of the movement came from a predefined variable, and I decided that was about time to add the ability to control the movement of the player. Once again, it broke. The movement was fine, it's just that the wall collisions weren't working. So after trying literally everything, then accidentally breaking the game, I rewrote the movement code for the 3rd time, and a 4th time. Now looking at this, I'm not actually sure what I'm doing, but then it worked for the first time, and I made a few improvements so it would run smoother. Then I called it a night. The next day, I looked through what I had done and decided to fix some movement bugs, which means I rewrote the key event code for the 2nd time. When it worked, I added little dots that you have to eat to get points. This basically works by copying the map data, placing a dot on every 1, and then increasing the score when a dot is changed back to 0. It wasn't that simple to code, because of mostly stupid mistakes, but I got it to work eventually. And that's when I noticed that the circles eaten looked to be 1 to the right and 1 down from the player. Instead of looking into what caused the problem, I just appended all of the code with a +1 or a -1 until it worked as it should. I ran into a couple of interesting bugs I didn't quite understand, but simply messing around and typing more garbage fixed the issue. When I was done with all of that mess, I made the map look better because so far it comprised of only 4 or 5 lines. I tried to go for sort of a maze feel, but also keep a lot of long lines. I play tested that and it looked to be functioning well. I added a score counter, so the dots counted towards something, and decide to put a nice font on it. It turns out there are 923 total points on that map, but I changed it later when adding the ghosts, and didn't bother to recheck. I added some small connections between major paths and started working on the ghosts. The ghosts were actually pretty easy to make, since I had the code from the player to block illegal movements. However, I still needed some sort of control for them. My first idea was to take any path that would take the ghost closer to the player using the angle between the ghost and the player, and then get one of the 4 directions to go in which was closest. This turned out to actually be much harder than I thought it would be, even though it sounds complicated, and I settled for a much simpler AI that looked at the difference in x and y coordinates between the ghost and player, and then move in the direction that got it closest. There were a couple of bugs with where the ghosts started, and a visual bug with how they were displayed, but it pretty much worked on the first try. I also realized that there was nothing preventing the ghosts from overlapping, so I added a couple of lines to basically block any movement that brought any ghost closer than 5 units to another ghost. I preset another ghost's location to another part of the map, and was surprised that everything worked. So next on the to-do list was adding the ability to lose. The easy way to do this was if a ghost had the same position as the player, they would die. Then it would stop the game and display a score and high score message. I made a simple image for the ghost because red squares aren't that attractive. I think the ghosts look pretty cute. The image is loaded in and displayed instead of the rectangle now. I also adjusted the speed at which everything moves, to make the speeds all about the same. I finally changed the background color to be a slight purple instead of black, and in general I chose a purple-yellow color scheme. I exported the project because I thought I was done. But wait, there's more. If you've paid close attention, you'll notice that the ghost array data has a size of 4, but only 2 ghosts chase the player. That's right, I forgot to set the starting position of 2 ghosts. So on day 3 I decided to fix that. I also fixed a pausing function which I don't know when I added. I played it through a couple of times, and the Ghost AI turned out to be far more effective than I thought it would be. I changed the scale of the dots, paths, and ghosts to make it all easier to see and more enjoyable. For the final time, I exported the project, and I started playing with it. I really enjoyed making this game, and would like to continue the series. Leave a like and subscribe, because I've received a lot of encouragement from people who liked the previous project, and I'd love to have many more people enjoy these projects with me. I'm also looking into GitHub. Basically, I'm trying to find a way to share my games with you all so you can play and enjoy them. Comment what game I should make next, and I'll see you in the next video.